Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube and Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channels. For those of you who are new, please feel free to subscribe. We've got over 1,100 audios on this channel, a variety of both old school, which is where my preference lies, and new school wrestling. This is the Smoky Mountain review for the 28th of March 1992. We are fast approaching, probably about 6 weeks away or so, from the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Championship Tournament. More announcements about that today. Anyway, Dirty White Boy against Joey Maggs. Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony, of course, managed by Ron Wright. Dirty White Boy has basically promised that he's going to be the champion. Works over the arm of Maggs pretty efficiently here. Ron Wright in a wheelchair at ringside watching on. Wright, of course, was a major star in the 60s and 70s in the Tennessee territory area for probably about maybe 25, 30 years. Only stayed in that area because I think he was a pilot or some other profession, something to do with planes, though. I remember that much. Anyway, he managed to wrestle at night and kind of do a nighttime territory and make bigger money. Anyway, really basic match. Anthony, such a talented guy, but ended up working over the arm for the first several minutes. Joey Maggs, of course, enhancement talent, and finally, Whitewood gets him down. Maggs comes back after a missed headbutt in the middle. Such basic psychology. The fans are behind Joey Maggs. Fans will get behind anything if you book the match correctly, and that's where, and especially today's talent, is kind of lost. They don't know how to, many times, psychologically lay out a match for maximum reaction. Anyway, big backdrop by Maggs. Maggs continuing here. Hits an enziguri, which is a move you don't normally see in that scenario from a guy like Joey Maggs. Maggs, though, does miss a drop kick, and ultimately that doesn't end well. Back suplex chokeslam style maneuver, and ultimately Tony Anthony wins that. The announcement of the championship tournament taking place on May 15th is there. Certainly, Bob Armstrong is the commissioner, who is positioned not as a putz like they do on WWE, but as a strong authority figure, former wrestler who cares about the fans, cares about the history of the promotion, and cares about ultimately kind of moving things forward. He manages to kind of run through really quickly the beginning seed, talks about further seeding in the tournament, and mentions people that are going to be selected. Basically, there's 12 seeds. 8 of them are going to go into the tournament. Don't really understand how that works. That was not explained well, to be perfectly honest. I tend to like things to be simple. Tell me there's going to be an 8-man tournament, a 16-man tournament, a 32-man tournament. Give me pairings and send me on my way. Seeding and all of that, although it's traditional in sports, to me, for wrestling fans, makes things more confusing and unnecessary. So, he kind of goes through the people that are going to be in the tournament, and there's a who's who cornucopia of wrestlers in that regard. It's their top seeds in the tournament include, but are not limited to, people like wildcard entrants are Dixie Dynamite, Scott Anthony, otherwise known as Raven, Dutch Mantel, Hector Guerrero, Buddy Landel, and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. People other than that are part of the process. Your first 5 seeds, I guess you'd call them, are also mentioned, and we kind of go through that process of kind of, and that, of course, the first 5 seeds: Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony, Primetime Brian Lee, White Lightning Tim Horner, Robert Gibson of the Rock and Roll Express, and Jimmy Golden. So, of those 12, 8 will go on to the tournament. Then when they do a personality profile on Tim Horner, who sings a country song, Thunder Rolls by Garth Brooks, guess they're trying to get over that he's multi-talented or something. Building around him in the company makes sense because he's Southern. Doesn't make sense because, from all intents and purposes, he was difficult to work with, but you don't know that when you're giving someone an opportunity most of the time. Anyway, Jimmy Golden is up next, and he is in in a singles match. Golden, of course, a guy who, for the most part, you know, around the Tennessee and that sort of area, um, manages, excuse me, manages to, you know, fight against, I believe it's um, Tommy Angel. I'm pretty sure. Uh, yeah, and so I mean, match is super basic. Before we go there, we do see a promo from Bob Holly, Hollywood Bob Holly, who manages to kind of remind people of his existence and that he's a bigger star than any of them could ever be. Angel manages basic moves, hip tosses, body slams. Golden heads to the outside. Golden uses cheating tactics, comes back in. Again, Angel manages to do, the power thing because he's a little bit more muscular. Cutoffs with cheating by Golden. Golden, of course, making himself look as good as can be for the heavyweight championship tournament coming up in about, well, less than 2 months, but, maybe 6 weeks or so. And that's that. I mean, he's in the top 5 seeds, so he doesn't have to fight for a spot. Then we go to Robert Gibson. Gibson talking about having the opportunity to win the tournament and be a single star. Also trying to get people to come out to the local house shows as well, which is useful in a company where things are good. Gibson excited about singles prospects. We have Jim Cornette cut a short promo, and then we go where he's basically still hyping his team, and the team which eventually is revealed to be the Heavenly Bodies. But we go to a non-disclosed outdoor location where Cornette promises to reveal his individuals there. Problem is, at least for Cornette, he ends up having the guys pull up in a limo. They are not revealed because, in this particular occasion, the ladies are chasing after the limo and we don't see them. Brian Lee, who's in the tournament, has ticked off Dutch Mantell for being in the tournament. Golden Boy Joe Kazana is the adversary for Brian Lee. Lee, of course, ends up winning the tournament. Spoiler on something nearly 30 years old. Anyway, but in this event, Brian Lee ends up working over the arm. He is super green and it shows, but at the same time, he's got the size, got an interesting look. In 92, you still want the bigger Hogan-esque looking fellows, but without the enhancement challenges. Anyway, Lee continues, uses a couple power moves, and gets the backbreaker known as the cancellation for his victory. Brian Lee says he wants to get his hands post-match on Dutch Mantell. Mantell says next week, and if he beats Lee, he can enter in Lee's place in the tournament. That's the basic idea here. And Lee agrees to those conditions. We then go to the main event, but also a first-round tag team championship tournament match. The Fantastics, Jackie Fulton and Bobby Fulton against the team of Billy Black and Joel Deaton, otherwise known as the Wild Bunch. Actually, a very good match for the nature of the fact that, unless you're a Southern fan, you may not know these four guys. I mean, obviously, Southern fans do, and anyone who is a diehard fan of wrestling would. But if you're a newer fan who doesn't have knowledge of them, they do amazing wrestling work. Black and one of the Fultons. I believe it's Bobby Fulton, doing some great mat grappling, and they kind of continue to go through the motions. Sorry, as I knock over my mic here. Through the motions of the process, Deaton comes in, tries to work over the arm. Both of these, I know that Deaton and maybe even Black goes to Japan a good bit during this era, and they work arm bars and key locks and things that wouldn't be traditional for the time period. They work body parts more than is normal in wrestling at the time. Then we see an elevated suplex by Billy Black, who comes back into the ring, tries to get a pinfall, doesn't get it. Super good match, worth going out of your way if you like tag psychology. Worth going out of your way if you want to see psychology work with two teams lesser known. Big lariat by one of the Fantastics as a cutoff. It's proof that something as simple as a lariat can get the proper reaction when done properly. Fantastics working together for a good bit here. Drop kick under the chin of Black, and away we go into more of a, kind of driven situation. Ultimately, hit some drop kicks and leg drops along the way, and um, ultimately, there's a continuation of bigger things, and so, I mean, the Wild Bunch tries to maybe gain access to chairs at ringside, use some illegal tactics. Then we see them cut off the ring, as heels often do and should do. They continue to go around for quite a while. The one thing I like about this is they're given nearly, almost 15 minutes. Meanwhile, the match goes to the outside after things like a Boston Crab don't work to get a victory. The use of the chair by the heels is led into there. They get back in the ring, and ultimately more cheating, including a shot from the outside with the knee. The Fantastics do lead to some distractions, and ultimately they get a victory. Almost as the show's kind of closing for the day, but the Fantastics will move on to the next round. Um, and it is a good show. Anyway, till next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.